Olivia Morgan stared at the slam of the door in her face, the bitter December wind whipping her skirts as the reality sank and she had traveled over 2,000 miles from Boston to Nebraska Territory only to be rejected upon arrival. The year was 1867, and at 23 years old, she now stood abandoned on the frozen plains with nowhere to go. "You ain't what was advertised," Mr. Blackwood had growled before shutting her out. "I asked for a sturdy farm woman. You're nothing but skin and bones with hands softer than my pillow. Now get off my property before I set the dogs on you." The journey west had depleted her meager funds, leaving her with only a small carpet bag containing her few possessions and the clothes on her back, a woolen dress and cloak wholly inadequate for the Nebraska winter. Snowflakes began to fall, gentle at first, then more insistent as Olivia trudged away from the Blackwood homestead, her boots crunching in the snow. The town of Stillwater was 5 miles back, and with the sun already low in the sky, Olivia knew she wouldn't reach it before nightfall. The temperature was dropping rapidly, and she had heard enough stories about winter on the frontier to know that being caught outside could mean death. After walking for nearly an hour, her fingers and toes had gone numb. The snow was falling heavily now, obscuring the road ahead. Desperation clawed at her throat as she spotted a faint light in the distance, a small homestead set back from the main road. With renewed determination, she changed course and headed toward it, praying whoever lived there would at least allow her to warm herself before continuing on. As she approached, she saw it was a modest cabin with a barn nearby. Smoke curled from the chimney, promising warmth within. Gathering her courage, Olivia knocked on the door, then knocked again more forcefully when there was no answer. Just as she was about to give up hope, the door swung open. A tall man with broad shoulders filled the doorway, a kerosene lamp in his hand illuminating a face weathered by sun and wind. His eyes, a startling blue against his tanned skin, widened in surprise at finding a woman on his doorstep in the middle of a snowstorm. "Please," Olivia said, her voice trembling from cold and fear. "I need help." The man studied her for a long moment before stepping aside. "Come in before you freeze to death." Olivia didn't need to be told twice. She hurried inside, the warmth of the cabin enveloping her like an embrace. The man closed the door against the howling wind and set the lamp on a table. "Name's August Reed," he said, moving to stoke the fire in the stone hearth. "And you are?" "Olivia Morgan." She remained standing just inside the door, unsure of her welcome despite being invited in. "I'm sorry to impose on you, Mr. Reed. I found myself stranded." August added another log to the fire. "Most folks don't find themselves stranded 5 miles from town in the middle of winter by accident, Miss Morgan." Olivia's cheeks flushed with embarrassment, but she lifted her chin. "I came as a mail order bride for Mr. Blackwood. Upon my arrival, he decided I wasn't suitable. He turned me away." August's expression darkened. "Silas Blackwood?" When she nodded, he muttered, "That man's meaner than a wounded rattlesnake." He gestured to a chair by the fire. "Sit down before you collapse. I'll make some coffee." As Olivia sank gratefully into the chair, she took in her surroundings. The cabin was small but neat. A bed stood in one corner, a trunk at its foot. The kitchen area consisted of a wood stove, a dry sink, and shelves holding provisions and cookware. A table with 2 chairs occupied the center of the room, and a rocking chair sat opposite the one she now occupied. Books lined a small shelf, suggesting that August Reed was a man who valued knowledge. August placed a kettle on the stove, then turned to face her. "You planning to head back east?" Olivia shook her head. "I have nothing to return to. My parents died of fever last spring. I worked as a seamstress in Boston, but with so many women seeking employment after the war, the wages barely covered room and board." She twisted her gloved hands in her lap. "When I saw Mr. Blackwood's advertisement, it seemed a solution." August nodded thoughtfully. "Lots of women coming west these days, looking for a fresh start." He studied her face. "How long were you at Blackwood's place before he turned you out?" "Less than 15 minutes, Olivia admitted. "He took one look at me, declared I wasn't what he ordered, and told me to leave." August's jaw tightened. "In this weather? With night coming on?" He shook his head in disgust. "Man could have at least waited until morning or offered to take you back to town." The kettle began to whistle, and August busied himself preparing coffee. He handed Olivia a steaming mug, which she accepted with grateful hands, savoring the warmth seeping through her gloves. "You can stay here tonight," August said. "Tomorrow, if the weather clears, I'll take you into town. The widow Harmon runs a boarding house. She might take you in, maybe give you work in exchange for room and board until you figure out what's next." "Thank you," Olivia said, relief washing over her. "I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't opened your door." August's eyes met hers. Nobody deserves to be cast out in weather like this. As the evening progressed, August prepared a simple but filling supper of beans, salt pork, and biscuits. Olivia offered to help, but he insisted she stay by the fire and warm up. They ate at the table, an unusual tension hanging in the air, two strangers forced together by circumstance, acutely aware of propriety and its boundaries. "I'll sleep in the barn," August said as he cleared the dishes. "You take the bed." "Oh no," Olivia protested. "I couldn't put you out of your home. The chair is perfectly fine for me." "You'll freeze in that chair, Miss Morgan. The bed has plenty of blankets. I've slept in worse places than my barn." His tone left no room for argument. August gathered some blankets and his coat. Before heading out, he added more wood to the fire and showed Olivia where he kept extra logs. "Keep it burning through the night," he advised. "Winter nights get bitter cold here." After August left for the barn, Olivia sat in the chair by the fire, contemplating her situation. She had come west with dreams of a new life, perhaps not a love match, but at least a partnership that could grow into mutual respect and affection over time. Now those dreams lay shattered at her feet. Eventually, exhaustion overtook her, and she prepared for bed, washing her face and hands in the basin August had left for her. The bed was firm but comfortable, and despite her worries about the future, Olivia fell into a deep sleep, lulled by the crackling fire and the knowledge that, at least for tonight, she was safe. Morning brought clear skies but bitterly cold temperatures. August returned to the cabin just as Olivia was stoking the fire back to life. He stamped the snow from his boots and hung his coat by the door. "Storm's past," he said, rubbing his hands together to warm them. "But it's colder than a well-digger's backside out there. Road to town might be difficult." Olivia's heart sank. "Perhaps I could wait another day? I don't want to be a burden." "But you're not a burden," August interrupted. "Truth is, I'm glad for the company. Gets lonely out here, especially in winter." Over breakfast, August told Olivia about his life in Nebraska Territory. He had come west after the Civil War, having served with the Union Army. Like many veterans, he had sought a fresh start, claiming a homestead under the Homestead Act of 1862. 5 years to prove up the land," he explained. "I've got 3 years behind me already. Been building up the place bit by bit. Got a small herd of cattle, some chickens, do some hunting and trapping in winter to supplement." "You've done all this alone?" Olivia asked, impressed by what he had accomplished. August nodded. "Most of it. Neighbors help when they can, and I do the same for them. That's how it works out here. Can't survive the frontier alone." Olivia thought about her own situation. "I had hoped. Well, I suppose it doesn't matter now what I hoped." "What did you hope?" August asked, his eyes curious. Olivia hesitated, then decided honesty was best. "I hoped for a partner, someone to build a life with. I knew marriage to a stranger wouldn't be easy, but I believed we could learn to care for each other in time." August studied her for a long moment. "Blackwood wouldn't have been a good husband. Man's got a mean streak a mile wide. Treats his livestock better than he would a wife." "Perhaps it was a blessing in disguise, then," Olivia said, though her situation still felt far from blessed. After breakfast, August announced he needed to check on his cattle. "I'll be back by midday. Make yourself at home." Left alone, Olivia busied herself tidying the cabin. It was already well kept for a bachelor's home, but she found satisfaction in sweeping the floor and washing the breakfast dishes. She noticed August's shirts hanging on pegs, some with tears or missing buttons, and set about mending them with the sewing kit she carried in her carpet bag. When August returned, he stopped short at the sight of Olivia sitting by the fire, one of his shirts in her lap, her needle flashing in the firelight. "You don't have to do that," he said, sounding uncomfortable. "I want to," Olivia replied. "It's the least I can do to repay your kindness. Besides, I enjoy sewing. It was my livelihood in Boston." August removed his coat and hat, hanging them by the door. Road to town is worse than I thought. Snow's drifted pretty deep in some places. Might be a few days before we can make it in. Olivia tried to hide her disappointment. While she was grateful for August's hospitality, she was acutely aware of her precarious position. An unmarried woman staying alone with an unmarried man would be scandalous in any society, frontier or otherwise. "I'm sorry to impose on you for longer," she said. August waved away her concern. "It's no imposition. Like I said, the company's welcome." He hesitated, then added, "But if you're worried about propriety, don't be. I'll continue sleeping in the barn. My reputation doesn't matter much out here, but yours might, especially if you're planning to stay in Stillwater." Olivia was touched by his consideration. "Thank you. That's very thoughtful." The days that followed fell into a comfortable routine. August would tend to his livestock in the morning, while Olivia prepared breakfast. They would eat together, sharing stories of their past lives. August spoke of his childhood in Pennsylvania, his time in the Army, and his dreams for his homestead. Olivia told him about growing up in Boston, the daughter of a bookkeeper who had ensured she received an education unusual for a girl of her station. In the afternoons, August would work on various projects around the homestead, repairing fences, cutting firewood, or mending harnesses. Olivia kept busy inside, cooking, cleaning, and sewing. In the evenings, they would sit by the fire, sometimes reading aloud from August's small collection of books, other times simply talking or sitting in companionable silence. On the fourth day, as they were finishing supper, August cleared his throat nervously. "I've been thinking," he began, "about your situation." Olivia looked up from her plate, a flutter of anxiety in her stomach. "Yes. You came out here looking for a husband, a partner. And I've been out here for 3 years, building this place up, but it's never quite felt like a home." He met her eyes. What if you stayed? Not as my wife, not right away. That wouldn't be proper, us barely knowing each other. But as a housekeeper, maybe? I could build a small cabin for you nearby. You'd have your own place, but we could get to know each other better. See if maybe, in time." He trailed off, clearly uncomfortable with his own proposal. Olivia was stunned into silence. It was an unusual suggestion, but the more she considered it, the more sensible it seemed. August Reed was a kind man, hard-working and honest. In the few days she had known him, she had already developed a deep respect for him. "You would build me my own cabin?" she asked, wanting to be clear on his meaning. August nodded. "It wouldn't be much at first, just a room with a stove and a bed. But it would be yours. And if things developed between us, well, we could consider more permanent arrangements then." Olivia thought about her options. She could go to town, try to find work at the boarding house or elsewhere. But jobs for single women were scarce on the frontier, and without references or connections, her prospects were dim. August's offer provided security, respect, and the possibility of something more, something she had come west hoping to find. "I accept," she said finally. "On one condition." August raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "That you let me pay my own way. I'm a skilled seamstress. I can take in mending and sewing from folks in town. And I'll cook and clean for you. Help with the gardening when spring comes." A slow smile spread across August's face. "Seems fair to me, Miss Morgan." "Olivia," she corrected him. "If we're to be friends and neighbors, I think you should call me Olivia." "Olivia," he repeated, the name sounding warm on his lips. "And I'm August." The next day, August began cutting logs for Olivia's cabin. He chose a spot about 50 yards from his own, close enough for safety, but far enough for propriety. Olivia watched from the doorway of his cabin as he worked, admiring his strength and determination. When the weather warmed slightly a few days later, August hitched his team to the wagon. "I'm taking you to town," he announced at breakfast. "You need supplies if you're staying, and folks should meet you. Better they know you're here by choice and with honest intentions." The ride to Stillwater took nearly 2 hours, the wagon moving slowly through the snow-covered trail. As they approached the town, Olivia felt a mix of apprehension and excitement. This could be her new community, if things worked out with August. Stillwater was small but growing, with a main street boasting a general store, a saloon, a small hotel, and various other businesses. People stopped to stare as August helped Olivia down from the wagon in front of the general store. "August Reed," a woman's voice called. "Haven't seen you in town for weeks." A plump, gray-haired woman approached, her shrewd eyes taking in Olivia with obvious curiosity. "Mrs. Harmon," August greeted her. "Allow me to introduce Miss Olivia Morgan. She's going to be staying at my homestead for a while, in her own cabin that I'm building for her." Miss Morgan is a seamstress from Boston. Mrs. Harmon's eyebrows shot up. "Is that so? Well, we could certainly use a skilled seamstress in Stillwater. My boarders are forever needing buttons replaced and tiers mended." August's introduction was clever, Olivia realized. By immediately establishing her profession and the separate living arrangements, he was heading off potential gossip. They spent several hours in town, with August introducing Olivia to various townspeople. By the time they left, Olivia had arranged to take in sewing from Mrs. Harmon's boarding house, the general store owner's wife, and several other women who were delighted at the prospect of having a trained seamstress nearby. As they drove back to the homestead, Olivia felt a weight lift from her shoulders. "Thank you," she said to August. "You've given me a chance to start over, to be independent." August kept his eyes on the road ahead. "Everyone deserves a chance to build the life they want, Olivia. I'm just helping you get started, same as others helped me when I first came west." The work on Olivia's cabin progressed slowly but steadily. February brought slightly milder weather, and August took advantage of it, working from dawn till dusk. Neighbors came to help, curious about the new arrangement and the Boston woman who had appeared in their midst. Olivia met them all with grace and determination, working alongside the women to prepare meals for the men and spending her evenings sewing by the fire. The pile of mending from town grew, providing her with a small income that she used to purchase supplies for her new home. By mid-March, the cabin was finished, a single room with a stone fireplace, a small window, and a sturdy door with a lock. August had built her a bed, a table with a chair, and shelves for her belongings. It was simple but solid, a testament to his skill and care. The night before Olivia was to move into her new home, they sat by the fire in August's cabin, a sense of accomplishment and anticipation between them. "It's a good cabin," August said. "It'll keep you warm and dry." "It's perfect," Olivia replied. "I never thought I'd have a place of my own, especially out here." August stared into the fire. "I've been thinking about something. With spring coming, there'll be more work than I can handle alone. I was planning to hire help, but maybe we could come to an arrangement instead." "What kind of arrangement?" Olivia asked. "A partnership of sorts. You keep house, do the cooking and sewing, help with the garden and chickens. I'll handle the cattle, the plowing, the heavy work. We'll split the profits at harvest time." He glanced at her. "Would be easier than you trying to make a living solely on sewing, and easier for me than breaking in a hired hand who might leave after a season." Olivia considered his proposal. It made practical sense, and it would allow them to continue getting to know each other without the pressure of marriage. "I think that would work well," she agreed. The next day, Olivia moved into her new cabin. It was strange, after weeks of living in August's home, to be alone again. But there was pride in having a place of her own, built specifically for her by a man who had asked for nothing in return except the chance to know her better. Spring arrived with a burst of green across the prairie. Olivia planted a garden beside her cabin, growing vegetables and herbs. She took care of the chickens, collected eggs, and continued her sewing in the evenings. August worked the fields, tended the cattle, and made improvements to both cabins. They took their meals together, usually at August's cabin, which had become the center of their shared work life. As March turned to April and April to May, Olivia found herself watching August with increasing admiration. He was unfailingly kind, not just to her, but to everyone he encountered. He worked harder than any man she had ever known, yet always found time to ask about her day, to listen to her ideas, to bring her wildflowers he found while checking fence lines. For his part, August seemed equally drawn to Olivia. He sought out her company even when work didn't require it, stopping by her cabin in the evenings to share news or ask her opinion on some decision regarding the homestead. Sometimes he would simply sit on her small porch, whittling or reading while she sewed nearby. Their neighbors noticed the developing relationship with knowing smiles but respectful distance. In a land where survival often depended on finding a good partner, courtships were practical matters as much as romantic ones. One evening in late May, As they sat on Olivia's porch watching a spectacular sunset paint the prairie sky in shades of orange and purple, August took her hand in his. "I've never been much for fancy words," he said, his voice low and serious. "But I want you to know that these past months have been the happiest of my life. Having you here, working alongside you, getting to know you. It's made this place feel like a real home for the first time." Olivia's heart quickened. "I feel the same way," she admitted. "Coming west was the biggest risk I've ever taken, and when Mr. Blackwood rejected me, I thought I had made a terrible mistake. Now I see it was the best thing that could have happened to me, because it led me to your door." August's fingers tightened around hers. "I'd like to court you properly, Olivia. With the intention of marriage, if you'll have me. Not right away, we should give it time. Make sure it's right for both of us. But I wanted you to know my intentions are honorable and that my feelings for you run deep." Tears pricked at Olivia's eyes. "I would like that very much, August." He lifted her hand to his lips and pressed a gentle kiss to her knuckles. It was a small gesture, proper and restrained, but it sent a warmth through Olivia that had nothing to do with the lingering heat of the day. The courtship that followed was conducted with frontier practicality overlaid with genuine affection. They continued to work side by side during the day, but now August would often bring Olivia small gifts: a ribbon from town, a book he had traded for, wildflowers arranged in a jar. On Sundays, they would drive to town together for church services, their regular appearances together a clear signal to the community of their intentions. In June, August took Olivia on a picnic by the creek that ran through his property. The day was warm and sunny, the grass lush and green beneath the quilt they spread out. Olivia had prepared fried chicken, biscuits, and a berry pie, while August contributed a bottle of wine he had been saving for a special occasion. After they ate, they walked along the creek, August pointing out the improvements he planned to make: a water wheel for grinding grain, irrigation ditches for the fields, perhaps even a small pond for fish. "You have such vision for this place," Olivia said admiringly. August smiled. "It helps to have someone to share it with. Someone who sees not just what is, but what could be." He stopped walking and turned to face her. "That's what I see when I look at you, Olivia. Not just the remarkable woman you are now, but all the possibilities of our life together." Before she could respond, he leaned down and kissed her. It was their first kiss, and Olivia felt it all the way to her toes, tender and sweet, with a promise of deeper passion held carefully in check. When they broke apart, August rested his forehead against hers. "I'm falling in love with you," he whispered. "I think I started falling the moment you knocked on my door in that snowstorm." Olivia's heart soared. "I love you too, August. I never expected to find love when I came west, only security. But with you, I've found both." The summer months flew by in a haze of hard work and growing love. August continued to court Olivia with thoughtful gestures and increasing displays of affection. Their kisses grew more frequent, more passionate, though both were careful to maintain proper boundaries. In July, August traveled to the next county to purchase additional cattle, leaving Olivia in charge of the homestead for 3 days. She missed him terribly, realizing how accustomed she had become to his presence, his voice, his smile. When he returned, the joy on his face at seeing her again told her he had felt the absence just as keenly. That night, after supper, August took her hands in his. "I don't want to be apart from you again," he said. "These past 3 days made me realize how empty my life would be without you in it." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. "I had planned to wait longer, to court you through the summer and into fall, but I find I can't wait. Olivia Morgan, will you marry me?" He opened the box to reveal a simple gold band. "It was my mother's," he explained. "I sent for it months ago, but it only arrived while I was away." Tears filled Olivia's eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I will marry you, August Reed." He slipped the ring onto her finger, then gathered her into his arms, kissing her with all the love and longing that had built between them. They agreed to marry in August, giving them time to prepare and to invite August's sister from Pennsylvania, his only surviving family. Olivia wrote to her former employer in Boston, the only person from her past with whom she had maintained correspondence, sharing her happiness and extending an invitation that she knew was unlikely to be accepted due to the distance. Word of their engagement spread quickly through the community. Mrs. Harmon organized a gathering of the local women to help Olivia prepare for her new role as a wife, gifting her with recipes, household advice, and knowing winks that made Olivia blush. The men arranged a shivaree for August, a boisterous pre-wedding celebration that left him with a sore head but a happy heart. As the wedding day approached, August surprised Olivia with his plans for their future. "I've been thinking," he said one evening as they sat on his porch. "Your cabin has served its purpose well, but once we're married, I want us to build a proper home together. Something bigger than my cabin, with room to grow." "Room to grow?" Olivia repeated, a smile playing at her lips. August's cheeks reddened slightly. "For children, I mean. If you want them. I'd like a family with you, Olivia." Olivia's heart swelled with joy. "I want that too. Very much." They were married on a bright August day, with the prairie in full bloom around them. The ceremony was held outdoors, near the creek where they had shared their first kiss. The entire community turned out, along with August's sister Martha and her husband, who had made the long journey from Pennsylvania. Olivia wore a new dress of pale blue cotton, sewn by her own hands with fabric August had purchased on a special trip to the county seat. August wore a new shirt and his best trousers, his usually unruly hair tamed for the occasion. The minister from Stillwater performed the ceremony, his words nearly drowned out at times by the song of meadowlarks and the rustling of prairie grass in the warm breeze. When August and Olivia exchanged vows, promising to love and cherish each other for all their days, there wasn't a dry eye among the assembled guests. The celebration afterward was a true frontier affair, with tables groaning under the weight of food contributed by every household for miles around. There was music from fiddles and harmonicas, dancing that continued well into the evening, and generous portions of whiskey for toasts to the happy couple. As the sun began to set, August took Olivia's hand. "Ready to go home, Mrs. Reed?" Olivia squeezed his hand. "I've been ready since the day I met you." They slipped away from the celebration to August's cabin, now their cabin, which had been decorated by the local women with wildflowers and candles. On the table sat a beautiful quilt, a wedding gift from the community, each square sewn by a different family as a symbol of welcome and support. That night, as husband and wife, they discovered each other in new ways, their love deepening with each tender touch and whispered endearment. Olivia, who had traveled west seeking security and found love instead, knew that in August's arms she had found her true home. The years that followed brought challenges and joys in equal measure. True to his word, August began work on a larger home the following spring. By the time snow fell again, they had moved into a sturdy 2-story house with 3 bedrooms, a spacious kitchen, and a parlor with bookshelves August had built to hold Olivia's growing collection of books. Olivia continued her sewing business, gaining a reputation that extended beyond Stillwater to neighboring communities. August's cattle herd prospered, and his crops yielded well. Together, they built a life of shared work and deep affection. Their first child, a daughter they named Lily, arrived in the 2nd year of their marriage, born during a spring thunderstorm that August swore was the most terrifying night of his life. He paced outside their bedroom as the midwife attended Olivia, rushing in at the first cry of his newborn child with tears streaming down his face. "She's perfect," he whispered, gazing at the tiny bundle in Olivia's arms. Just like her mother. 2 years later, they welcomed a son, Samuel, followed by another daughter, Rose, 3 years after that. Each child strengthened the bond between them, creating a family that filled their home with laughter, occasional tears, and abundant love. As the children grew, so did the homestead. August added more land, built a larger barn, and constructed a proper root cellar and smokehouse. Olivia's garden expanded to include flowers as well as vegetables, bringing color and fragrance to the prairie. Together, they planted trees, elms, and cottonwoods that would one day provide shade for their grandchildren. The cabin where Olivia had first lived remained standing, converted first into a play space for the children and later into a workshop where August crafted furniture during the winter months. It stood as a reminder of their unusual beginning, a mail-order bride cast out in winter, a kind cowboy who had offered shelter, and the love that had grown from that simple act of humanity. 10 years after their wedding, as they sat on the porch of their home watching their children play in the yard, August took Olivia's hand, a gesture that had become as natural as breathing over the years. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "Coming west, I mean. All the hardships you've faced, the comforts you left behind in Boston." Olivia looked at their entwined fingers, at the simple gold band that had never left her hand since the day he placed it there. "Not for a single moment," she said. "Everything that happened, even being rejected by Mr. Blackwood, led me to you. How could I regret the path that brought me my greatest happiness?" August smiled, the lines around his eyes deepening lines formed by years of squinting in the sun, of laughter, of life lived fully and well. "That snowy night when you knocked on my door was the luckiest moment of my life, though I didn't know it then. You built me more than a fire and a home, August Reed," Olivia said softly. "You helped me build a life I never dared to dream of." As the sun set over the Nebraska prairie, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, August leaned over and kissed his wife a kiss as full of love and promise as their first had been all those years ago. Their children's laughter rang out across the homestead, the cattle lowed in the distance, and the prairie winds whispered through the tall grass. For Olivia and August, it was the sweetest music imaginable, the sound of dreams fulfilled and a love that had found its home on the western frontier. 20 years later, the Reed homestead had grown into one of the most prosperous farms in the county. The small town of Stillwater had expanded into a thriving community with a railway station, a proper school, and businesses that served the surrounding area. August and Olivia's children had grown up. Lily had married the local schoolteacher and lived just 2 miles away. Samuel worked the farm alongside his father, preparing to take over one day, and Rose was away at college in Lincoln, the first woman in the family to pursue higher education. On the anniversary of the day Olivia had first arrived at August's door, they always celebrated with a special dinner, recounting the story for anyone who hadn't heard it. That year, as they sat around the large dining table with their children, grandchildren, and close friends, August raised his glass. "To the snowstorm that brought me the greatest treasure of my life," he said, his eyes meeting Olivia's across the table. Though time had silvered his hair and deepened the lines on his face, his eyes still held the same warmth they had when he first opened his door to a desperate young woman in a snowstorm. Olivia raised her own glass, and to the man who opened not just his door, but his heart. Her hair, once deep brown, now showed streaks of gray, but her smile remained as bright as ever. As their family and friends joined in the toast, Lily leaned toward her mother. "Tell us the story again, Mother, about how you and Father met." Olivia exchanged a smile with August before beginning the tale they all knew by heart. "It was the winter of 1867, and I had traveled all the way from Boston as a mail-order bride." The story of the mail-order bride who was cast out in winter and the cowboy who built her a fire and a home had become a family legend, a testament to the unexpected ways love could be found on the American frontier and the enduring power of kindness, respect, and deep affection to build a life of extraordinary happiness from the most unlikely of beginnings.